You guys know that I love words. And these words are not mine, by the way. Words are a lot like people, sometimes quirky, warm, or even a little prickly. Just as people can catch us off guard, so can words. Both carry hidden depths of meaning and
Hey,
emotion.
check 1 2 1 2.
Hey, how are you? Good to hear you, by the way.
There she
Um,
is.
in her latest book, Words, author Katherine Davis-Gibbon explores this connection. Her writing and clever illustrations within help children feel at ease with language and show them how to use those words thoughtfully and build meaningful relationships. It's my pleasure, by the way, and like I said, it is deeply moving stuff here in its simplicity. Katherine Davis-Gibbon, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. And I just love the way you describe the book. Thank you.
Oh, and I have to tell you right now, it's there's a profundity to it in its simplicity. I mean, and the illustrations, we'll get to that in a moment here, but there is really just kind of, putting the simplest version of those words, all carefully picked too, all carefully picked, kind of talk about the overall project, and then we'll get to the specificity of what we see and what we read on the paper, because how we encourage children to become lifelong readers is one of my biggest passions. It's only second to getting older people to become readers late in life. I was raised in a family of words. I was raised by people who were throwing Lord of the Rings, Faulkner, and Madeleine L'Engle at me in rapid fire succession. So talk about what the overall project here is.
Yeah, so this is a children's book. It's targeted for kids who are 4 to 8, 3 to 8. So basically, it's kids who are at the age where they are really coming into relationship with language and with literacy. So they're starting to learn to read, and they're, experimenting a lot with language and how they use language with other kids in the classroom, at the park, at home, with their siblings, that sort of thing. And yeah, so the book is really about finding yourself in the world of language. So it basically follows this diverse group of kids who sort of stumble upon this park where words quite literally come to life. So what I mean by that is that the words that kids are saying or even just thinking, or the words that would describe sort of what's happening and what they're seeing happen, actually become illustrated characters in the story that interact with the word characters as well. So, they kind of see just like people, every word has a personality of its own. Some are going to be really friendly and inviting right off the bat. Others, they might rub you the wrong way. You might find them pushy, prickly, weird. Not every word and not every person can ever make the best first impression. But the more that you give them a chance, the more time you spend, the more you invest and share adventures with words, these kids start to connect with language. So they discover, every word has its powers and also its quirks, and that's, just like we do. So they see that words are like people. Any word, like any person, has that potential to become your friend. Yeah.
But so here's why, Katherine. Good morning. I have a 6-year-old, so I've been very excited to speak with you because we're in that place of so she's very inquisitive. Everything is a question, and I want to pull my hair out, but I also don't. I know my family was always like, "Oh my God, stop talking" when I was young. So I'm trying to let her talk. But then also I'm having a lot of those moments where she asks what a word is, and I'm trying to explain her what words are, knowing that she won't know the words that I'm using to explain it either. That moment, and it's so hard. And by the way, this morning she also at 6 a.m. came in my room and asked me how babies are made. So that's a whole nother conversation. I was like, let's start our
lot
Wednesday.
of words.
Woo! Start our Wednesday with that. But that's talk. How do we explain to a child what a word means when they don't know what the words are that would explain that? I know you get what I'm saying.
I get exactly what you're saying. I think it's one of those conundrums as a parent when your kids are asking you what a word means, and you want to define it, but the definition could be just as elusive. So
yeah.
And I've been there many times, and when it happens kind of all day long, you just kind of want to pull your hair out because
You want to drink. Catherine, I'm
it,
driven to drink. Let's be honest.
it's exhausting, it's confusing, but you know what's kind of cool about it is that it's going to make you think about what the word means. And that's the amazing thing about having kids is the way that they become a mirror for you, and they make you reflect. And what I like to do when I'm at a loss is make up a little spontaneous mini story about that illustrates the word in a funny way, because that's the best way to explain it to them. I mean, their life is really stories, friends, and family, at that age. So if you can kind of just spontaneously make up a little story about, the names that you're hearing when he or she comes home from school, and find a way to illustrate the meaning of the word. But one of the messages of my book Words is that, definitions are great, but words and language just unfold forever over the course of our lifetime, for the parents too. Like any word, you could look it up in the dictionary and you will see a meaning there. But it's incredible how many different things that same word can mean in a different piece of writing or in a verbal interaction, depending on how you use it, why you use it, where you use it, what the context of the story is. And I just, as a writer, I think that's the most amazing, wondrous, delightful thing. So, I kind of encourage kids and their parents to think of these conversations as like just posing questions and sort of opening a dialogue, but never really putting an end to it, because you want that journey. You want to keep partnering with words on that journey as you move through life and try to find meaning.
I like that word, Jim. Partnering with words. That phrase, I mean, is nice because it really is the reminder that we're in a relationship with what comes out of our mouth, right? We were talking this morning before we had you on just about how do you express yourself and not get in the way of that expression or overthink the expression. And so that balance of I want to be thoughtful about what I want to say, but also not overthink it. That's quite the balance. But I like what you're saying and the idea of, it makes me more thoughtful in what I say, knowing that I have a little person listening and being part of. So how do you, I guess, walk that balance of be thoughtful about what comes at think before speaking, but also I don't want to get in the way of the emotion that's coming out if I overthink it. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense.
Okay,
and I
good.
think, that's the thing about language, and I guess, one of the main thrusts of the book is what do we want from language? We want to bring it as close as possible to our intention so that whatever it is we're trying to communicate or we're trying to figure out for ourselves, that the language becomes a tool and like a teacher that brings us closer and closer to clarity on these points. And I think it's really important. We do want to be thoughtful, of course, about how we communicate and what exactly we're saying. But listen, we're all on this journey together. So just because, you're the parent or I'm the parent and we're further along on that journey than our children, it doesn't mean that we're done, So we're going to say the wrong thing. And that's when we need words even more to apologize or explain or just be like, oh, actually that was just the perfectly wrong word. So I think, let me search for the right one. Or, just adding context and, kind of continuing to unpack whatever the intention is. Words are great at, doing that. They're great at explaining. They're great at, adding layers. I mean, it's cool. I think it's amazing and cool. So, but you gotta hold it that way as like an adventure and a game, I think sometimes, because it's it is a lot of pressure for parents to feel like, oh, I got to get this right. I want my kids to, be sensitive and good communicators and et cetera, et cetera. But, you got to have fun with it. I think that's the most important thing.
By the way, I want to point out to Lindsay and Catherine, in the exchange you guys just had, you all used the words "thing" a total of 11 times, and every time it had a different meaning. And I'm not picking on you at all. I would tell people to go to the Oxford English Dictionary, not with their children. They'll go, might put them to bed immediately. That might be a strategy actually. But if you go look up that word, the slippage on that word, what it means based on how it's said and in what context it's used, is a great example of the power of what this book does. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that in the book, Catherine puts her money where her mouth is, that there are so many wonderful things going on in here, like some words, the best of friends, like tick and talk, and it's tick and talk both on a, what is it? I forget what it's called.
Seesaw.
A seesaw, and you've got zig and zag, and they are on skateboards, basically zigzagging around an old lady on a park bench. What's really cool about the book, from a visual standpoint, is the amount of empty space that is in it on purpose. It almost seems like a place where kids figure out their own meanings and create the story. I have actually thought of about 4 or 5 stories about who Zig and Zag are. And so the whole book is not just meant to be read, it's meant to be read aloud and discussed, and actually have kids talking, reading with their parents and figuring out what these words mean to them, correct?
That is absolutely correct. I love the way that you articulated that. Part of the reason why I created my own imprint for publishing my books is because the kind of book that I was always sort of looking for when my kids were a little bit younger is the kind of book that poses questions and prompts discussions. And you know, there's a place for every book. I have upstairs full of children's books that I can't give away because I personally can't part with them, even though my kids are now 9 and 14. I just love them all so much, and they all have their strengths. But I wanted a book that doesn't like give the kid the answer before it's posed the question. Like I wanted the kinds of books that like just pose the question and give that kid the space, as you described, to kind of bounce that around in their head and reflect on it and do their own thought process. So that's sort of the sweet spot that I'm looking for with all the books that I bring out. It has to be fun, it has to be relatable, it has to be accessible and meaningful for kids. But I want it to have that depth and that kind of just, you know, thought-provoking quality to it that gets kids thinking about ideas more than concrete things.
Do you think, Catherine, that there's a thing around, so to back up really quick, I just got, again, my 6-year-old, she's almost 7, she's in 1st grade, and she, it just came in yesterday. I got her a big fan she can clip on her headboard that has a light in it. And when we were ordering it, I was laying in bed with her when I ordered it, and I said, I'm going to get you this. Hey, it's really hot. I'm a woman of a certain age, so I get hot in her bed when I'm putting her to sleep.
Oh, I know.
That's the real reason for me. But for my daughter, I was like, okay, I'm gonna tell her that we're going to get her this light because she can put in her bed. So that means she can read before she goes to sleep. And she got so excited. So when the light and the fan came yesterday, she was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have my own light. I can read now in my bed. She's never done that before, by the way, but it got her so excited. So I tell that anecdote because it made me, so when I was going to bed last night, I was like, I am really excited about now me, my husband, and my daughter all laying in bed and reading together before we go to bed. We've never done that, but I want her to see that. And I really want to adopt that into our lives where she just knows, she sees mom and dad read, I want to read too. So is the inspiration behind kids learning these words and get excited, is it as simple as not focusing on, I want you to learn this word and learn this, but just adding more and more books into their life, and eventually it starts filtering in. They start understanding how words go together without, you know what I'm saying? As like,
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you. I think you know. I guess my question is just how the easiest way to inspire them for the words organically to start sinking in.
Yeah, I mean it's a great question, and there's so much to it. And honestly, I think that it's really important to honor different kids' learning styles, you know, because there are kids who are going to have a harder time with reading in the sense of like phonetic decoding. And those kids, they really need to be read too. It's really important, I think, not to put so much pressure on them to turn it into a chore. And what I understand, my older daughter is one of those kids, and my younger daughter is the total opposite. I didn't have to teach her how to read. She just started reading everything herself, and now I have to be careful what I have open on my phone because she's like reading it over my shoulder. Yeah, it's actually the process, the way that the brain processes language. If you read, as in the parent reads, and the child follows along on the page, they are processing the phonetic decoding piece the same way as if they had read it themselves. So, isn't that amazing? So it's really important to read to kids like that. Then some kids they're very, very good at decoding information that they hear. And so, Audible, now we have Audible. Didn't have that when I was a kid so much. That's amazing. Some kids are very kinesthetic. For them, like drama might be a great, like theater. And that's a really great kind of gateway into storytelling and enjoying stories. Some kids are very musical, song lyrics. I mean, it's like, I bet there is as many ways as there are kids, to get involved. But what we don't want to do is turn it into a chore or something where they feel like they're failing or they feel like they're even being judged all the time and evaluated all the time. And part of what I did with this book, Words, is I created a cast of word characters in the book where, not every single word in the book, that would be crazy, but keywords all throughout the book on every spread are illustrated as characters. They become characters. And so as the kid is looking through its picture book, they're going to see a character and they're going to say, well, I know that's a word because of the way that character looks. And the next thing they're just going to have this urge of like, well, what word is it? Can I figure out what word it is based on the way it looks in the context? And then can I sound it out? And I've taken this book into schools and libraries and done little readings. And before I even read the story, I just go page by page and let the kids take turns trying to decode words. And they get so excited when they can figure it out themselves. Even the little ones, even the pre-K ones, want to try. And so that's a lot of what I was trying to do with Words is make it fun, make the phonetic decoding piece fun and, kind of pique their curiosity and their interest while also giving them these hits of like the personality of each word so they can then kind of relate to the word like, oh, that reminds me of so-and-so, or actually that reminds me of myself.
I have to tell you, my personal favorite, by the way, Lindsay, is Push and Pull. I love that push. I just love him to bits. I mean, and by the way, literally having them on the hopscotch, literally standing on the hopscotch, it is like every single kid, even to this day, kids play hopscotch in playgrounds all across America and all during recess in particular. And it just looks like, as I was looking at the two of them, I said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if these two ended up at the senior prom together a couple of years from now.
Exactly. And I love that you said that because, another message that I wanted to kind of bring through in the story is that words themselves aren't inherently bad, just like, babies aren't born as a bully, it's something that people learn. And so it's all about, what you do, like your choices, how you choose to use words. And every word can become an ally or, a friend in a certain situation. And so I have this great affection for Push because we did, we kind of drew him out like a bully, right? Like we made him look like a bully. But he also has this endearing quality. And you just kind of see how there's a dynamic there, that both of them are kind of participating in. In another situation, you might push yourself to do something challenging. You might push yourself towards, achieving a goal that you've always wanted to achieve. So push could be a great word. But yeah, that was another theme in the book. I'm so glad that I don't know, we're drawn to that.
Well,
Go ahead, Lindsay. Go
Well, I'll
ahead.
just say on that note, I want to talk about empathy because you said that the bull, push. You gave him a bit of an endearing quality, which you certainly did. But I think all bullies do have an endearing quality somewhere down deep. Like you only become a bully because hurt people hurt people. Okay, fine.
Yep.
And so I think that's. You become a bully because you're not seen or heard or felt, whether that's at home or whatever. So on that note, you're helping kids really build emotional intelligence through language. How can vocabulary really help with empathy?
Yep, exactly. You said it so well. I don't know that I could say it that much better than you just did.
Okay,
Lindsay,
well, bye. Thank you for coming. No,
but it's true. I mean, that was definitely something that I wanted to come across to the reader, that we all we are all capable of saying the wrong thing. We are all capable of being snarky, depending on how we're doing that day and what just happened and everything else. And so, it's not really helpful to stamp a label on someone and say, oh, that person is mean or whatever. You want to be able to get into it with them and engage and not just push things away that rub you the wrong way on the very first meeting, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, the bullies, they have a lot to learn from this book, and I hope that it can be a little bit of an intervention for young children in the bullying dynamic from both sides, because my wish for the bullies, or the ones who are leaning towards becoming a bully, is that they figure out there's another way I can get my needs met. I could find the words and reach out to someone else with the right words, and then maybe I don't need to act out in this way. And then for the kids that are more inclined to become a victim in these dynamics, my wish for them is that they trust the words that they're hearing pop up in their minds, to the extent that they can set that boundary with the bully, or they can communicate clearly to the teacher, the parent, the principal, whomever it is, hey, there's a problem here. This is turning into a problem, and also that they can console themselves. They can journal, or a kid that little isn't going to journal, but they can find the words to offer themselves comfort when they've been hurt.
I have to do it. I'm sorry, and I won't tell them what it is. It is possibly the funniest fart joke that is acceptable to children I have ever seen in a children's book of all time. I just want to let that out there. See what I did there? I want to let that out
Ew,
there, and
gross.
and just let people kind of go with that.
Stop letting it out.
But that's exactly it. It is, and that's the other thing too, though. This is not. I mean, like I said, this is a children's book. Clearly a children's book.
This is a family show.
It's a family show, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't run away from some of the kind of the weirdness of words, or the strangeness of words, or the fact that bees are scary, especially when they're shaped like words. I mean, all of that kind of stuff really plays through. It does it in the same way that Where the Wild Things Are doesn't run away from the fact that childhood's a tough racket sometimes.
It's so hard. It's all I can think about lately is how hard it is to be a kid.
Yeah.
Like learning things it's like, give them credit. They're literally alive for the first time. Everything is new, and it's sort of overwhelming, very overwhelming for them, overwhelming for us on the other side who have to put ourselves back in their shoes as well and remember things overwhelming and how. But I'm also curious, the book is called Words. As simple as that. First of all, we overthink things and try to make these long titles. You're literally calling a spade a spade. So what does the word mean?
I think the word is basically a container for any possible thing that you could experience. It's like a mirror of life, or a mirror of experience. And, it's amazing because, there's some things we experience that are concrete. We were going for a walk and it starts thunderstorming or whatever. That's concrete. We're all like, but a lot of our experiences are not concrete. They're more abstract. It's more our feelings or how we reacted to something that's happening in real time. And how amazing is it that we can find, if we search and we're diligent and respectful and we care, we can find words to encapsulate our internal experience and share that with other people. I just think that's like just mind-boggling, but the coolest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
This book, by the way, is one of the coolest things ever.
Agreed.
And one of the really kind of great things about it with your kids is that you're very, by the way, you're smart, but one of the things
I hope she knows she's smart if she's writing a book called Words Teaching Children.
Yeah,
FYI.
I mean, but the thing is too is that the best thing about a great children's book is that you can actually reread it and you can go through it and find more stuff. There are a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of hidden things inside of here. Look once, look twice. You may find there are more words on the page than you thought from when you first started. It's a really terrific piece of work. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, I wanted it to be kind of like a game, kind of rival the iPad, you pick up this book and it's like a scavenger hunt that you can kind of step inside it and it becomes a game. And, kids will take pleasure in finding the same words over and over again, and they'll take so much pleasure in pointing them out to new people. Like, grandparent comes over, they're going to be like, can you find this word? Do you see, they're going to enjoy repeating that game.
You said rival the iPad, so real quick before we lose you, do you have any recommendation, knowing that technology is going to be in our kids' hands, whether it be the iPad or whatever device, and obviously we just want to balance that. We can't completely take it away. It is how we communicate in the world, but balancing that. But is there any app or trick or piece of technology that you would recommend to help kids learn words?
Well, I love
the answer can also be no, by the way. It's fine.
Yeah, I love that you said we need to balance it. I think that's such a good point. It's like I'm not an anti-technology mom, and the truth is they're going to have these tools, and so our role is not strictly about like the negative, like screen time, and let's say that every screen is bad for you in some way. Our job is how do we teach them how to use technology for good and for their own good, so the balance. There is an app. I am trying to remember what it's called. It's if you go to, actually you could go to my website even, because I have a link to it on my website.
Okay.
So my website is riverletpress.com. And if you go there and you click on the resources tab, and you scroll down, there is an app that the American Academy of Pediatrics has created. And what it does is it helps a family create a plan for their media usage.
Oh, wonderful.
And the plan is for everyone. It's for the parents, too. It's for the whole family. It's like a customizable family media plan is what they call it. And I think it's just a helpful thing to do, because if you don't have a plan, you're just going to default to what, when you're bored, when your kid has a flu and they're home for like 10 straight days or, whatever, like you're going to do all your defaults, right? Like everyone does. That's human nature. But if you have a plan, then at least you kind of know what you're aiming for. And I really think, every family, every parent is the expert on their own kids, their own principles, their family culture, the community they live in. So I can't tell another parent what's right or wrong about their screen usage. But this tool empowers parents to make their own plan, and then that just gives them a head start towards kind of sticking to the plan.
Katherine,
Perfect. You can. I'll just say I love that you can speak from your own. You can't tell them what to do, but you can say, "Hey, this is what I know works for me and my family." Etc. So thank you for that. I'm on that now. Riverlet, Riverlet press.com, the resources page. Some awesome things to download depending on what age your child is. I will be using it. Thank you so much, Katherine, for the resource and the conversation.
Thank you so much.